Hi everyone, this is Con Emmanuel with another exciting video tutorial. Let me just get everything set up, just bear with me. Okay, so in this tutorial, I will show you how to create this wonderful, colorful Easter egg. And as you can see, there's shading, there's a lovely red dot pattern, and there's even a bit of a speckle texture. So if you look over to the right, you will see all the layers. And what you notice here, these layers that are indented, the ones that are kind of further to the right, they're called clipping masks. So with a layer, you can actually connect it to something underneath. So in this case, that's the green egg shape. In fact, if I hide all these, let me just hide all these. That's just a normal shape, green egg shape. And then if I click this one on, you can see it's got a speckle pattern. Now the clipping mask is identified by the little black arrow. If I hold down the Alt key on a PC or Option key on a Mac and click right here, you can see that I've now changed all the layers back to normal. And that's what it looks like when they're normal layers. But if you hold down the Alt or the Option key and click in between the egg shape and the layers above, watch what happens. So this is the white spatter effect. Notice that it goes inside the shape. Let's do the same with the red dots. And let's do the same with the highlights. And let's keep going with the shadow, and then the bounce light, and then the hot spot. So this is a wonderful tutorial on using what they call clipping masks, but I'm also using these things up here called blending modes. Some people call them layer effects or blending modes. And you'll notice this one is using the soft light blending mode. This one's on normal, the red dots. This one is overlay. Okay, there's the overlay. And different blending modes create different effects. That's on multiply, this one's on screen, and this one's on color dodge. Now, the one that's on normal, the red dots, I can change that. I can change it to screen, and then it does that. So depending on the mode that you choose, you get a different effect. All right, we're going to learn about all that. Anyway, let's leave this here and I'll start from scratch. I'm going to start with a brand new layer, sorry, brand new canvas. And as always, I'm going to choose A5 Tor. I'll make my background color just an off-white gray. There we go. And click on Create. So here's our brand new canvas, and this is the example that I showed you earlier, two different tabs. All right, first things first, let's create our egg. And always use a new layer. So I'm going to choose new layer from the pop-up menu there. I'm going to call it egg. In fact, I can actually call it green egg because that's the color I'm going to make it. Green egg. And there's the layer waiting for me. Now you're probably wondering, how do I paint an egg? How do I create the shape of an egg? Well, there's a few ways. The easiest way I find is to use this tool here, the elliptical marquee tool, and just on the new layer, just draw a shape like that. Now, it could be a circle, it could be an ellipse, and I'm just going to fill that with the color black for now. In fact, no, what am I talking about? I'm going to fill it with the color green. So over here, I'm going to choose like not a dark green or light green, something in between, something in the middle. So there's my green. There is my selected area. And the shortcut for fill is Alt-Delete on a PC or Option-Delete on a Mac. Now you're thinking, that doesn't look like an egg, and you're right. So I'm just going to deselect that, which is Control-D or Command-D on a Mac. And I'm going to go to the Move tool. And not that I want to move it, I want to actually go Control-T. Now, Control-T is the shortcut for transform. And if I right click right in the middle of the transform box, I get this pop-up menu, and there's a few things I can do. I can warp it, I can distort it, I can skew it. I think I'll stick with warp for now. Now warping brings up this grid, and if I push out on the bottom two corners here, notice that I'll make the shape a bit fatter down on the base. And I can do the same at the top. I can push up on the top, and now it's looking more like an egg. So that's what's great about the warping tool. And then when I'm happy with the shape, I can press the Enter key on a PC or Return on a Mac, and there is my egg shape. Good. All right, now we're ready for the first effects. And the first effect is going to be the red dots. So don't forget, there's the red dots. Don't worry that this egg is tilted. I'm going to show you how to do that later. All right, so the red dots, we create a new layer, always a new layer. And of course, we're going to call this red dots. And this is the way I create a pattern of red dots. Obviously, I need the color red. And then I go to the brush tool, and I just simply choose the hard round brush, and I'll make sure that the opacity and the flow are both on 100%. Now, you might remember the square bracket keys on your keyboard, that they're the ones next to the letter P. They can make your brush bigger or smaller, depending on which one you tap on. So I'm just going to make my brush that size and do one single click here, another one here, another one here, another one there. And these are all the same size, just single clicks. And it doesn't matter if some of them are outside. Okay, I might just do, no, leave it at that. So that's the first size dot. I'm going to tap on the left square bracket and make my brush a bit smaller. Here's the next size. And it doesn't matter if it's not uniform. This is just to prove a point. And I'll make the brush a bit smaller. And here we go, just to finish it off. Lovely, I'm happy with that. It's actually glowing. I don't know if you can see this. It's shimmering because red and green, it's very conflicting, isn't it? Even though they're complementary colors. All right, now here's where the magic lies. I'm going to turn this layer into a clipping mask. And I'll do that by holding down the Alt key on a PC or Option key on a Mac. And then watch what happens to my cursor when I go to the in-between line. That's the line in between the red dots and the green egg. See how it turns into a little white square with a black arrow? If I hold my mouse perfectly still and click once, it turns into a clipping mask. And basically what that just means is that the layer above is placed inside the layer below. It's a really nice way of keeping the artwork confined to a shape. All right, so that's the first effect. Now I'm going to add a shadow to the base of the egg. So again, new layer. This is called shadow. Always name your layers. And I'll paint the shadow first, and then I'll show you how the clipping mask works. Now for the shadow, I'm going to swap brushes. I'm going to choose the soft round brush. And this time I'll choose a darker red, a darker green, maybe down here. All right, now I'm going to make the brush quite large. So don't be scared. Right, here we go. Now watch this. I'm going to place the shadow sort of around there. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. And you're thinking, wow, that looks ugly. And you'd be right. But when I turn this into a clipping mask and change the blending mode, then it becomes magical. So here we go. Ready? Alt, click. The green shape is now inserted at the base of the egg. And now here's the magic. You change it to multiply. And wow, that looks amazing. I can keep adding some shadow if I want or not. Now, if you find that the shadow is too dark, no problem. You can change the opacity over here. It lightens it. See that? And the reason it looks effective is because A, I'm using a clipping mask, and B, I've changed the blending mode from normal to multiply. And now you can see the red dots. Even the red dots have been shaded darker. And that's the beauty of multiply. It darkens the pixels that are already there. So of course, if you've got yourself a shadow, you need a highlighted area at the top. So this time I'm going to choose a lighter green, and I will choose a new layer. I'm going to call it highlights or highlight. And again, with the same brush, I'm going to paint an area at the top like that. And now I do the clipping mask trick, hold down the Alt key. The green goes inside the egg. And now I change the layer effect to, I think it's screen, if I'm not mistaken. Or is it overlay? Let me just remember. No, it's overlay. Although screen's not bad either. In fact, depending on which one you choose, you get a different effect. But I might just leave it on overlay. Cool. All right, so now we've got shadow, highlight, red dots. Let's do the texture, the spatter brush texture. So I'm going to choose a new layer once again. We'll call this texture. And again, let's choose the right brush for the texture. Now here, I'm going to choose a special effects brush, and it's called Spatter. Now I've got 3 to choose from. I might just stick with that one there. And now the color. I think I chose white before. So let's just stick to white. And before I do the clipping mask, this is what happens. Okay, it looks pretty crazy, doesn't it? All right, now you're thinking that looks bad. However, when I do the clipping mask, hold down the Alt key, click in between. The dots go within the shape of the egg, but then I can change the layer effect. Now, which one was it? Let me just remind myself. The texture was soft light. Okay, so sometimes you forget, you know. So soft light is this one. Ah, that's beautiful. Now, here's a little thing. If I zoom in, you can really appreciate the, oh, hang on, sorry, this is playing up. That's better. You can really see the spatter effect now, or the texture. Go away. If you wanted the texture over the egg, but not the dots, you simply move that layer below the dots. So now the texture is on the egg, but not the dots. So that also is important to remember. By the way, I should have showed you this. Let's say you want to move the dots. You simply select the layer, you go to the Move tool, and lo and behold, you can move the dots within the egg. That's the beautiful thing about a mask. In fact, you can move anything within the shape. You can see that, even the highlight. If you think there's too much highlight, no worries, just move it to the top. So that's what I like about using masks. All right, let's zoom back a bit. And then the last thing is this hotspot, which is basically this area here. And you can see I've used the color dodge blending mode. So let's create a new layer. We'll go to the top of the stack for this. New layer. Call it hotspot. And all I did for this is I chose the soft round brush, which is back up here. I chose the color white, and I just put a big dot right about there. Let's just do it again. One more click. Maybe too much, but let's see how we go. So that's already shiny, but when you change the color mode to color dodge, it doesn't really change it much, but I can bring the opacity down. It's meant to kind of blend it in more, but that's not bad. You can see that it's shiny. And once again, I can do the Alt trick and make that into a clipping mask, which means I can move it with the Move tool anywhere I want. Beautiful. All right, now, obviously, my sample version has a purple base with a shadow. So we'll do that next. So all I did for that, in fact, let me do this before I do the tabletop. Let me group all these layers together. I'm going to select all the layers, and I do that with the Shift key or the Command key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then I go Control G on my keyboard or Command G on a Mac. And now they're all grouped together, which means I can move it as a unit. Now, this is where the tilt comes in. Because they're all grouped, I can go Control T, which you might remember stands for transform, and I can tilt it. Look at that. Okay, right, now here comes the purple tabletop. I'll just move that a bit more there. Now for the tabletop, it's a new layer just above the background layer. We'll call it tabletop. I choose the color purple. And I use the marquee tool, the rectangular marquee tool, and I simply just draw a shape like that. And then fill it, Alt-Delete, with the color purple. Now for the shadow, I'll make the egg a bit smaller, because that's a bit too big. Let me just make the egg a bit smaller. And I'll plonk it here. Now the shadow, there's a couple of steps involved with that. Let me just open up the group here and go back to the base layer in that group, which is the green egg. And I want to duplicate that layer. The quickest way to do that is Control J. Now, that's the duplicate. This is the one I want, the one at the bottom, not the one at the top, this one here. And if I take the move tool, I can move it and show you that it is in fact a duplicate of that green egg. And all I did to create the shadow, don't worry about changing the color, leave it green. I just went Control T for transform. I rotated it that way. And then I held down the Shift key and distorted it. You can do that sort of a thing. Make it skinny, long and skinny. And it doesn't look like a shadow yet until, let me just make it a bit longer, until I change the blending mode. If I choose multiply, doesn't matter what color it was before, it blends with the color underneath. And if I make the opacity less, you can see it's picking up the purple. So that's the great thing about using multiply. Doesn't matter what color it started off with, it just blends with the color that's underneath. Now, you might remember, this kind of fades into nothing. So the way I did that effectively is I chose the gradient tool, which is this one here. Now, you don't just go and draw a line over the shape, you have to set it up. So you do two things. The first thing is you click down the bottom here, there's a little icon. That's called Auto Layer Mask or Add Layer Mask. And when you click on that icon, you get a little white box next to the shadow. And now that you've got the white box, see how this is black to white over here, the foreground and the background color are black and white. Now you can go up here, and I'm using an older version of, I wonder if this is going to work. I'm using an older version of Photoshop. So yeah, that works. If I drag a line, that fades out into nothing. Beautiful. You can see on that white box next to the shadow, it's got the gradient that I just drew, but because it's gone from black to white, it creates the illusion that it's fading out into nothing. And that's it. That's the green egg tutorial. I might just do one little thing. I'm going to bring the texture below the red dots. So I like it better like that. All right, I hope you enjoyed it. Have fun trying it. And as always, if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, bye-bye.